Hey everyone, it's Nighthawk. As soon as I was finished uploading my Xayah build guide video, I was made aware that there was a balance patch for Swarm today. I knew that there was a patch today for League, but I actually didn't think they were making any changes to Swarm. So we're going to go through this patch notes live together. I've skimmed this a little bit, so I kind of know what's going on, but I haven't read it thoroughly. So we're going to read it thoroughly together and talk about what I think this means for Swarm and what this may mean for Swarm in the future. So let's get into it. Time for our first adjustment to Swarm. For this patch, we're mainly focused on performance, bug fixes, and buffing up underperforming champions. We're deliberately avoiding nerfs, except in cases where something is way affecting server performance. This is something I was expecting. I didn't really expect them to nerf much, other than Yasuo because he was lagging the game. So let's get into this. So the boss enrage system has changed a little bit. Instead of just basically one-shotting you after 5 minutes, the boss will enrage visibly, which will be a lot better because you don't have to guess whether he's enraged or not. And deal bonus damage, and then after a little while, he'll instant kill you. This actually resets when he transitions to a second phase, which is good to know. That means you have a total of 10-ish minutes to kill Aatrox in both his phases combined. All right. Aatrox buffs and nerfs for the bosses themselves. They fixed the weird bug where you could like hide in the corner and not get hit by swords. That's good. Briar damage is up for the boss fight, which is good because Briar's boss fight was by far the easiest. I haven't tested this out yet, but before it was pretty pathetic. So we'll see how hard it is now. Rek'Sai no longer shotguns champions with missiles while knocking them up, avoiding unclear fun shots. I've had this happen to me a couple times. Rek'Sai's not really that hard of a boss, but sometimes you will just get like heavily bursted down by her weird missiles. So that's a good change. Same thing with this, just changing the hitbox. Untargetable champions can now res allies, pickup cards, health bombs, and vacuums. That's nice. One of the issues I was having with Aurora is that when you're in your E, you can't actually do any of those things, but now you can, so that's a good change. Removed to the weird window where reviving champions were not invulnerable. This only happened to me a couple times, and it was annoying, but that's a nice little fix. All right, here are the champion buffs. Briar's getting buffed, which is kind of surprising to me. I already thought she was really strong, but it's not that big of a buff, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. So her Fish Frenzy, which is her E, damage reduction is now doubled when you're below 50% health. It already occurred when you're below 30% health. It just wasn't included in the tooltip. So now you get even more damage reduction when you're low on Briar. Nice little change. Probably not going to make her that much better, but she's already really, really strong, so that's fine. Okay, Aurora. Aurora needed some help, and I don't think she really got it with this. E now detonates your existing hex marks on cast. Nice to have early, especially, because most of your damage does come from hex early. But that's not really that big of a deal, especially because I don't think they fixed the issue where her weapon stopped firing when she's in her E. I don't know if that's intended or not. We'll check down to the bug fixes later. Now gains untargetability during R casts. Thank God. So many times when I ulted, the little hop would kill me because I would jump right into an enemy. This makes her all a little, actually quite a bit better. And I think this only affects like the very intro during the cast time. It's not like she's invulnerable during the whole ultimate, but it says right down here, fix the bug where Aurora would sometimes remain targetable while teleporting. This also got me all the time. So two really, really big bug fixes to Aurora. Still probably not very good just because I don't think her damage is that strong, but thank God for these bug fixes. I think now she's at least playable. Moving on to Alawi. Tentacle length now scales with area size, and area size makes her tentacles visibly larger. I don't think this shifts the needle very much on Alawi. I don't really understand why they didn't buff her damage up a little bit more, unless it was a bug fix further down. We'll check that out later. I think Alawi's damage is just really, really bad. So kind of disappointed they didn't buff that. At least they made her scale a little bit harder with area size, which is nice, I guess. This is the changes to Yasuo. I think this is really the only nerf, but your Tornado Evolve now scales with duration and area size, which is very, very nice. I didn't realize those were dead stats on him before, so I would like pick area size and just be disappointed. But to compensate for that, they nerfed the area size by 50, which is about 20%-ish. And they nerfed the duration by 1.5 seconds, which is also around 40%-ish. So slight nerfs to Yasuo. I don't think this is that big of a deal. This is mostly just to fix the lag he causes late game. So honestly, fine by me. Seraphine, projectiles now multicast with the Cyclone Slicers, Animines, and Bunny Crossbow, String Shortbow. That's good to know. I didn't really even know this was bugged, but nice to have. Animines and Slicers weren't really my favorite weapons on her anyway, but maybe they're a little better now. No longer permanently uses her ability to slow enemies when she dies. Didn't know that was a thing. Nice that it's fixed. Jinx. Jinx passive no longer multiplicative scales. This was a really big problem on PvE. I wasn't really experiencing it that bad on live, but it's probably because I have low ping. I think at higher pings, yeah, at higher MS levels, I'm not sure. I think that's move speed, but also higher ping levels, you could lose control of your character. Very frustrating. So I'm glad they fixed that. Okay, Leona is the biggest winner of today's patch by far. Leona got a lot of buffs, even though I don't think she was really that weak. So one, they reduced the cooldown of her basic ability by 0.25 seconds at all ranks. That still scales down with ability haste too, so very nice buff there. Biggest felt early, I think, just because your early game damage was really slow at 3 seconds. A little bit better at 2.575. Her armor ratio, which I believe is for her passive, but I'm not really 100% sure about that. I think that just means that you get more area size based on how much armor you have, which I think that's what that means, armor ratio. Other than that, the only thing I could think of is for her E, just does more damage now, but I'm not 100% sure about that. It's a nice, pretty big buff though. 1 second, or sorry, one whole number. That's a 50% buff, so pretty huge. Sunlight damage. That is her evolved weapon, I believe. Yeah, her evolved weapon applied like a debuff called Sunlight. Apparently, it only did 75 damage, which is kind of pathetic. That got up to 300. That's going to be huge. Makes her damage way stronger now. That is actually a huge buff. Light of Lions. Light of the Lion's Sunlight effects. Guess that's what her weapon's called when it's evolved. I didn't even know that. Is now properly triggered by all weapons. That's good to know. Didn't know it was bugged, but always nice to have it fixed. Eclipse now only removes other shield. Wait. Eclipse now only removes other shields on expiration. Eclipse now only removes other shields on expiration. That wasn't a bug? I thought that was a bug. Okay, well, not really 100% sure what that means. There was a weird issue with Leona where if you E'd on the second expiration, it would like kill all your shields. So if you had shields from things like Paw Print Poisoner, it would kill it. But apparently that's intended. Not really sure what this means. And then R, no longer permanently loses the ability to stun when Leona dies. I usually play solo, so I didn't really encounter this that much, but that's nice to see. Riven, no changes. She's perfectly OP. Zaya, no changes. She's incredibly strong. I agree with these. Both these champions are really good, so no need for changes there. All right. Weapon buffs. Searing Shortbow no longer permanently stops dealing damage on death. Did not know that was a thing. Sounds really annoying. Glad it's fixed. Gatling Bunny Guns. Damage got upped by decent amount. That's like 10%. That is not bad. A little bit nerfed early. I don't know why they bother doing that. Probably just for clean numbers. But a nice little buff at max rank. Evolved damage versus stun targets up by 5% as well. Don't really think this moves the needle on bunny guns that much, but I guess you're a little happier when you have to pick them up. Yuumi bot got reworked a little bit. The cooldown now starts at the start of the duration instead of the end. And the cooldown duration have been adjusted to account for this. These are buffs. So basically, instead of Yuumi casting her CD after she expires, which I think that's what that means, she casts at the beginning. So you'll be having a lot more Yuumis out, especially at higher duration or cooldown reduction levels. So now you can have multiple Yuumi bots at once. I think this makes Yuumi a lot better. Probably still not very good. But with the changes to now she scales with area size, this could be pretty strong. I'll have to test this out. Probably still not going to pick her up because pickup passive is terrible. But hey, any help to Yuumi is nice to see. Same thing with Tibbers. Tibbers got buffed by a decent chunk. That's like a 15% buff. Not bad. And his cooldown got reduced a little bit. Still, no major changes to Tibbers, I don't think. This is just a really nice damage buff. Makes him a little bit stronger, but I don't think this is really going to move the needle on Tibbers that much. Still really only going to pick him up if you have duration passive. Radiant Field got buffed by 10 damage at max rank. And up to the health ratio by 1.5%. That's actually a pretty big buff. That's like 20% damage based off your max health. Radiant Field I thought was a little lackluster. I think it's still pretty good on champions like Leona, but maybe I am interested in picking it up now on like Briar or maybe even Riven. Beforehand, I really wasn't interested in this on anyone but Leona, so nice little buff for that. The train now counts as a pet. Oh, that's cool. Don't think that really matters that much, but pretty cool. It now has a lot more damage though, and it scales with armor. I didn't realize it scaled with armor. It scales a lot with armor. Holy moly. 5? That's 500% of your armor, right? I'm reading that right? 500% of your armor is crazy. On like, if you have the armor passive, you have like 90 armor late game. And if you're playing Leona, you have even more. Oh my god, Train might actually be like go-to on Leona now. You press your E, Train hits a target for like 17 billion damage. That sounds like fun. Psychotic Clicers. Damage is up a little bit. Good, it needed a little bit of help. Slow down the missiles so they create less visual noise. Thank fucking god. The visual noise off of the Psychotic Clicers was awful. Main reason why I didn't pick them. Very annoying. Fix a bug where the evolved missiles weren't hitting as often as they should. I kind of noticed this one. I think that was mostly just like if the area size gets too big, sometimes targets that were like really close to you wouldn't get hit. I think that's what it means by this, but I'll have to test that out. Weapon nerfs, Uwu Blaster. I think we all saw this one coming. It wasn't that big of a nerf. It's 5 damage. I think that's per bullet, so it ends up being a little bit more, but Uwu Blaster's still probably on top. 5 damage off at max rank is not going to kill this weapon at all. Still really good. Just a little bit less insane. Augment buffs. Glass Cannon. Damage increase is now multiplicative rather than additive. Glass Cannon was probably the worst augment in the game. Glad to see it getting buffed. Not really sure how much this moves the needle, but I guess we'll see. I still think losing like, I think it's 40% of your max health is way too big of a nerf for however little damage you get, like 30% bonus damage. So still probably not picking Glass Cannon. Nice to see it get buffed though. Bullet Mini, I got a buff. Less damage reduction. That's actually really big. Bullet Mini, I thought was already pretty strong. So losing less of your damage when you're picking it up, that's really nice. A mobile immolation bug fixes basically. No longer stacks or deals self-damage when when dead. Dying now sets the count to 0. No longer counts when you're in the cinematic. Thank God. Sometimes you would die to immobile immolation while in the cinematic. That sucked. Now resets count to 0. No longer deals self-damage when invulnerable. Nice to see. There's not really many times when you're invulnerable. This doesn't mean untargetable, by the way. Like when you're in Aurora E, I think you still take damage. But invulnerable is, I think, when you're in the car and during Seraphine ult. I think those are the only 2 times when you're invulnerable in Swarm. But there could be others. Don't quote me on that. Cross Country, no! Cross Country nerfs 3% instead of 4% per stack. It's still really good. This is going to end up being, I think you get around an average of like maybe 30 stacks plus or minus 20 or so late game, depending on when you get it. That is going to be around 30% less damage, health, and area size. So that's a pretty big nerf, but I still think this augment is like insane. I don't know if you still pick this up as your last augment, but it's still probably really good. I don't think this makes this bad at all. I just think it brings it a little bit more in line with the other augments. Same thing with Rimming Runner. They have to the damage per movement speed increase. The only thing I think this changes for Rimming Runner is maybe you don't take it if you have literally no other move speed buffs. Beforehand, you literally just took this every single time because it was just really strong, even based on the damage or the move speed buffs you get from your upgrades. Now, maybe you don't take it every single time, but you still probably take it all the time. pretty big nerfs to these two augments, but still really strong. That kind of just goes to show how insanely OP they were. All right, getting back into the bug fixes. These are actually going to be pretty important because bug fixes were some of the big issues with Swarm. It doesn't mention it in these. I'm pretty sure I read through them, but they also fixed the recall bug. So you can no longer like click the hidden recall button on the bottom right of your screen. So sorry to be the breaker of bad news for that. It's no longer there. I just tried that out. So sorry. Improved performance of Steering Short Bow, Evolved Embershot, and Wandering Storms. That is really nice. Wandering Storms specifically would kill your both your FPS and your ping sometimes. It would just make you laggy. Generally improved game performance. Always good to see. Achievements for picking up vacuums and bag bombs now apply to the whole team. There's a lot of these fixes throughout the patch. The achievements were really buggy. So it seems like now they're a little bit less buggy, which is nice. And then added VX confirmation picking up the red dot. Good. The red dot is so annoying to pick up. Okay. Bug fixes. Fixed an issue where Briar's Feeding Frenzy applied additional area of effect with her Penumbrous Electrocarver. Basically what this was doing was it was like applying tons of bonus Briar Feeding Frenzies when you're in E with the Static Sword evolve. This is not really that big of a deal. It's a nerf, but it's not that big of a deal. Fix an issue where you would not be granted the speed buff after getting knocked back in the Belveth boss fight. This only happened to me like once or twice. It's annoying, but that's nice to have, I guess. Most of these are just not going to be that big of a deal. Fix an issue where the up-tab upgrade was not available. I never saw this upgrade, so I guess that makes sense. I think it's pretty strong, but not insane. Some of the storyline quests got fixed. Not really going to go over all of these just because it is not much time. But just, yeah, some of the quests got fixed. Thank God. Fix an issue with achievements, blah, 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 blah. Solar flare, blah, 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 blah. Fully kitted, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, challenges. Stasis field no longer stops freezing enemies after 15 seconds. I actually did notice this one. It's pretty annoying. Enemies frozen by stasis are no longer permanently frozen. Blah, 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 blah. Fixed an issue with Riven's E where it didn't scale with area size, or at least the visuals didn't. More achievement fixes, I'll try to only read the ones that were pretty important. Achievement fixes, upgrade, augment. One's already up there. I don't know why they put this twice. Weird map texture issue. I had that happen a lot. Aurora's evolved weapon projectile count being capped. Didn't really run into this, or I didn't notice it if I did. Same thing with Seraphine. Seahorse AFKing. I've seen that a lot. Glad that's fixed. Narrative barks. Not interesting. They fixed the weird Rek'Sai arena bug. And that's it. Okay. Nice little patch for Swarm. I really wasn't expecting this many changes. Glad they buffed up some stuff, especially some of the weaker weapons. Kind of interesting that they didn't buff Alawi, other than making her scale off area size. I kind of think she needed more help than that. Same with Aurora. I haven't really tested her out yet, but I don't think these changes really move the mark on her that much. So I would have hoped to see a little bit more changes to them. But other than that, really happy with this patch. I thought everything in this made a lot of sense. Nothing was nerfed that I think shouldn't have been nerfed, and I don't even think the nerfs were like killer. So as it should be in a PvE game. Sorry that this video was a little rambly and a little late. I just realized that this patch went out. I didn't script this or anything. We're basically just reading this live. I'll be making more videos very soon. There's going to be an Aurora Extreme Solo run coming out tomorrow, theoretically. That won the poll by a very large margin. You guys really want to see me suffer, I guess, versus Aatrox, but it probably won't be too bad. We'll see. Other than that, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this weird impromptu video. Hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy Swarm content, making more of it in the future, and keep enjoying Swarm. Appreciate it.